and players smiling.
But Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in, 51 for Jason Tatum.
The Big Three NBA podcast is powered by Prize Picks and the Game Time app. Welcome to another edition of the Big Three NBA podcast. I'm your host, Sherrod Blakely, and I'm joined by Yahoo Sports, always on the move, Vincent Goodwill Jr. What's going on, Vince?
Hey, Sherrod Blakely, how you doing, man?
I'm wonderful. Glad you could squeeze us in because you are in the midst of doing what all NBA beat writers are doing this time of year. You're on the move, doing your thing, and I want to just really jump right into conversation. The season has gotten off to a pretty good start. Some of the teams that we expect to get off the fast starts are doing that. Some teams have been a little bit in slow motion so far as winning and things like that. When you look at the way the league has played out this first week or so, what's been the biggest surprise to you as far as like how things have started this year in the league?
I think, Sherrod, every team goes into the offseason saying, we need to make a big move, right? We need to make this big, splashy move, and it's going to pay dividends very early in the season, if not late. I think what we're seeing, Sherrod, is continuity wins the day. When you're looking at the Celtics, when you're looking at even Golden State, who's made moves around the margins, when you're looking at the Clippers, when you're looking at Oklahoma City, the teams that are winning are teams that have been together for a long time and have a system and a style of how we want to play. And even though the style of play, Sherrod, has changed throughout the NBA, like it's way more three-point heavy, I got a lot of criticism about that. But in terms of winning and how it looks, you can see that the teams that understand the style, like the Celtics are going to launch 53s a night, right? Golden State is going to launch a lot, even without Stephen Curry there. Oklahoma City is going to play to their youth, to the point that they're playing 8 against 5. You know what I mean? Like it's about continuity and it's about youth, because conversely, they got a lot of continuity and they don't look good at all because they don't have shooting. You know what I mean? Like, so it's a lot of different things working here for and against these teams. The Boston.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that continuity is a big thing. And Vince, you talked about putting things together on the margins. One of the things we've seen is that some pretty decent players have been left on the outside of the margins. You look at a guy like Markelle Fultz. You look at a guy like Lonnie Walker. Why do you think teams have been so reluctant to add guys who have shown that they can play in this league? They're not superstars by no stretch of the imagination. But you're talking about guys who are pretty good rotational type players who are doing kind of what you and I are doing most NBA nights, and that's watching other ballers play.
I'm really surprised about Markelle Fultz. Like there's a story behind that nobody's talking about. Because for all of his struggles that he had early on in his career, Sherrod, he found a niche. He found a way to make things work using his athleticism. The shot was going to be the shot. But whenever you can get to the basket, I feel like as a small guard or small-ish guard, and you're an active guard in terms of athleticism, there's going to be a place for you in the league. And not just a place for you, there's a place for you in the rotation. He's a rotational player. Same thing with Lonnie Walker. I understand why the Celtics looked at him from a numbers standpoint and said, hey, we were only going to be able to give you a training camp look. Like, that's a championship team that's paying a lot of money to a lot of guys, and you're way deep into the luxury tax. Why haven't the New York Knicks picked up Lonnie Walker IV? Can someone explain that to me? If he is a 7th, 8th guy on a rotation, and you know, Sherrod, like I do, no matter how long you covered this league, you win in the regular season with 8 or 9 guys. In the playoffs, you maybe play 7.5, 8. But he's a good regular season player. I saw him win a playoff game with his bare hands against the Golden State Warriors when he was with the Los Angeles Lakers in the 2023 semifinals. He had a fourth quarter that nobody saw coming. And the fact that he doesn't have a job right now, I'm wondering if teams are waiting for the 20-game mark and saying, okay, maybe some of these young guys that we have on cheaper contracts, if they're not going to show and improve, we're going to bring in some veteran players. But Sherrod, that's why I think there's going to be a lot of movement this offseason. in terms of front offices, because not everybody knows what the hell they're doing.
Right, and it's being exposed in a big way when you look across the league, and when you talk about front offices being exposed, and there's some people that may say that Sherrod, you always hate on this team, but damn it, I got plenty of reasons to now, and I'm talking about the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, it's one thing when you've got load management with your best player, but then you make a deal to bring in him some help who has as many, if not more, load management issues as your main guy. And then to really to put the icing on the cake, you begin the season with not one of them, but both of them doing the same thing that you and I are doing, watching games play. Are you surprised that Philadelphia went in like they did on Paul George? And depending on what you say to that, are you surprised, or is this expected that they would have both of those guys on the sidelines so early in the season, at the start of the season?
No and no. I'm not surprised that Philadelphia went all in on this. I'm not surprised that either guy is sitting. And I'll tell you why. Because from a coaching standpoint, Nick Nurse has done this before, right? He did it when he was the head coach of the Toronto Raptors, and he took over Dwayne Casey's team, and you added Kawhi Leonard. So you didn't have to have Kawhi Leonard there to establish a culture, reinforce a culture. The culture was already there. You had your Kyle Lowrys, you had your Serge Ibaka's, you had guys like that there, right? So you didn't have to worry about that. In Philadelphia, Joel Embiid theoretically is the culture, but I don't know what that culture means. He's an MVP player when he plays, but you don't know when he's going to play. And for him to have almost courageously played through the back end of that surgery, right, and to have had some big playoff games in that first round series that they lost against the New York Knicks, to turn around and play in the Olympics, and then to say you're not ready for the regular season, which job is your job, Sherrod? Which job are you getting paid $45-50 million for? What happened between the Olympics in August and training camp in September? Did you have another injury? There wasn't another surgery, at least that not that we know about, that you can't even play 5-on-5. You're coming in. Most guys, Sherrod, come from the Olympics, and they come ready, rocked to go, right?
They've had a summer conditioning. They've had conditioning. Yeah.
You're loaded into NBA basketball. Not only that, you're loaded in terms of competition. You're loaded in terms of you've been playing ball against the best of the best all summer. So all you got to do is get yourself in basic basketball conditioning, and get yourself on the floor. So Joel Embiid said, I don't want to play back-to-backs. I'm not going to do that this year, the rest of my career. And Paul George, who was playing in the preseason, you know what I mean? But he was playing in the preseason, Sherrod, and hyperextended his knee. We saw that happen. I can respect that. But for Joel Embiid,
obviously has been a problem for the Sixers this year. Clearly, whatever he's dealing with, in his mind at least, it's enough to keep him off the floor, which it opens up opportunities for Maxey, who's I think been playing out of his mind. But we've seen this movie before. Good player, bad team, lots of losses. What does that mean in the grand scheme of things? Where do you see Philadelphia at the end of the day stacking up in the Eastern Conference? Because we ain't even talking about the NBA Finals. We're not talking about titles. In the Eastern Conference, how do you think the fact that you have so much uncertainty with Joel and Paul George, how do you think they're going to finish this year?
Sherrod, I'm not very bullish on them as a playoff prospect, as a playoff team. And I'll tell you why. The regular season, as it's been undervalued by a lot of people who follow or watch the NBA, right? And maybe it's been some of us in the media who undervalue the regular season. I do not. I think those 82 games develop muscles, and you have to wind up relying on those muscles when the playoffs begin. Take a guy like Tyrese Maxey, right? You like Tyrese Maxey as a guy who's an Energizer bunny. He's going to zip up and down the floor. He's going, like, that's just his energy. His energy is to be aggressive at all times. When Joel Embiid isn't there, he has to be a point guard. He's not a table setter. He's not a natural point guard. He's not a guy that you can run your offense through because you want to give somebody else shots. Tyrese Maxey is going to get Tyrese Maxey some shots. And maybe, just maybe, he'll make the pass that leads to something. But if you're asking him to be the hub on offense, Sherrod, that's not the best use of his talent. And simultaneously, when Joel Embiid is out, and that's 30% of your usage, 35% of your usage, guys can't get into a rhythm. They don't know what type of shots they're going to get, how many minutes they're going to play. Sure, it's putting them in different positions where they can play different roles, but what muscle memory will they have to rely on when times get tough? Are you going to be playing 15 minutes as a backup, or are you going to be playing 30 minutes in a playoff series? And I think to disrespect the value of the regular season will come back to bite them when it counts.
Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. They got over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all, so you just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up 100 times your cash. Your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get into the action in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay even if one of your players gets hurt or injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. Sign up today and give $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus because it's guaranteed. Think Steph Curry will get more than 4 3-pointers this week, or Anthony Edwards more than 27 points? Cook up some hot takes with your friends and win real money this basketball season. Get your crew to run your game on Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. And, you know, some of the Prize Picks you could be looking at: Luka Doncic for more than 31.5 points, Steph Curry for more than 4 3-pointers, Anthony Davis more than 11 boards, the freak Giannis for more than 29.5 points. Again, download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Yeah, but and again, there's a lot of games left to be played for sure, but this is not the kind of start that you would want to have, particularly when you have so many integral pieces that you're trying to get on the same page. The longer it takes for them to get on the court, the longer it takes for them to be in sync. And I'm not talking about just Joel and Paul, but Joel, Paul, Maxey, they've got a lot of pieces that they want to make sure give them the best chance to be successful, and that's just not happening. But Vince, as you look around the league, I mean, there are some teams who are probably playing a little bit better than most people thought. Is there one team that jumps out to you that has really just been a pleasant surprise of sorts for their fan base, at least as far as how they played?
One jumps out to me that I did not expect to be this good, this quick, and that's the Cleveland Cavaliers, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like when you looked at their roster and you looked at them firing JB Bickerstaff, you were wondering, okay, how much were you expecting someone like him to get out of that team? What is that team ceiling? Like he got him to the second round of the playoffs with your main player being hobbled and Donovan Mitchell. Like what do you expect? How much work are you expecting the head coach to do? Kenny Atkinson has jumped in there and has sort of taken it to another level. And Donovan Mitchell, I think, is one of those players, believe it or not, he's a top 15 player who has not gotten to the conference finals, right? Joel Embiid is a top 15 player who's never gotten to the conference finals, but we look a little bit different. And I think with Cleveland, if you're going to play double big, you got to lean heavily into one of those bigs being your guy, and that's Evan Mobley. And I really like Evan Mobley as like a concept. I think he's Slim Duncan, not Tim Duncan. I want him to put on some weight. You know what I mean? Just eat a little bit. Just go to the Rasheed Wallace School of Dieting just for like a couple of weeks.
Man.
Put on some weight, right? You know what I mean, Sherrod? Have him put on some weight, and then he can, just sort of slim it down a little bit. I'd rather you have a little bit too much than not enough to start when you're playing 4 or 5. Because I think that kid is special.
He's got some
And if you
talent.
play through him, you might have something.
Yeah. Well, first of all, there will be no Rasheed Abdul-Wallace slander on the Big Three NBA podcast.
No slander.
There is
Cut
no
the check,
Rasheed Abdul-Wallace slander. But you're right, though. I mean, he has shown himself to be a guy that in certain situations can be really, really talented and impactful. The big thing with him is consistency. He doesn't seem to – and the other thing, too, is, he's got basically a backcourt with 2 off guards who are supposed to be playmakers. They don't have a clear, definitive table setter, as you put it. The guy that they've got in that role is actually better at eating than to set the table. He can get buckets. And we didn't talk about Donovan Mitchell, who obviously is a big time prospect. And then there's Jarrett Allen, who it seems they want to be that hub. They want him to be that central figure that, in terms of the impact that their bigs can make. Jarrett is the one that they seem to be really, because I was listening to Austin Carr the other night talk about, the Cavaliers. And I mean, he is as close to that team as anyone with, just his role and just his TV presence. And he was talking much more about Jarrett Allen and just making sure that he's in position to be impactful, which kind of was a little bit of a head scratcher to me, because if you've watched that team play, and we've seen Jarrett play and we've seen Mobley play, Mobley's got there's way more room to grow for Mobley. Mobley is a guy that could be not just an all-star. He's got all NBA potential, yes. I believe. I can't say that about Jarrett Allen. Jarrett Allen, all-star, but not all NBA type talent.
We've seen the best of Jarrett Allen. That's not to say that that's not good. That's a great player. But there's no more high notes for him to hit in terms of where he can go. With Evan Mobley, he's in year 4. Like, he's a guy that you're going to be expecting in a critical playoff game to be guarding Jason Tatum on the perimeter, to be guarding Kristaps Porzingis in the mid-post, to be guarding Al Horford on the block. Like, he's that gifted and that talented on both ends of the floor, Sherrod. You're just asking him to be a little bit more aggressive and assertive and to take the team. Like, when you're on a team with Donovan Mitchell, you're probably not going to be handed the team in terms of hierarchy, or you have to take it on the floor where a guy says, you know what, this is your team now.
Absolutely. And obviously, Cleveland, they have had a great start, won their first 6 games, looking like, one of, if not the best team in the NBA. But there's the usual suspects that are lurking. The Boston Celtics lone loss, was to Indiana on the road in overtime on a night where they just did not look very good. Oklahoma City is doing some really good things out west as well. The Los Angeles Lakers have had a pretty good start, obviously. But Vince, is there a team that has that people aren't talking about that they probably should at the start of the season?
I hate to say this. It sounds bad, but I think we've all written off the Golden State Warriors as a team that has hit a sunset. Right? They've hit a sunset. And for some reason now, they're back to strength in numbers. At least that's what it looks like early on. Now, they haven't had the hardest schedule. They're about to go out east, I think, for 5 games. So you're really going to see what they're made of, especially with Stephen Curry being out with that ankle injury. But when you look at the Gary Paytons of the world, the Jonathan Kumingas of the world, the Andrew Wiggins, guys that you don't think of as, shall we say, big spades. We don't think of these cards as big spades. They're going to win you a book. They're not. But for whatever reason, they are hellacious on defense, Sherrod. They're
These
very,
like
very
8 and 9s. We're talking 8 and 9 spades. Yeah.
8 and 9. They walking. Right. That 8 and 9 is walking every now and again. And next thing you know, you picking up 6, 7 books and you trying to figure out how you getting off the table. They are taking people off the table. What they did to New Orleans, and you know this, Sherrod, is to beat it. One of the hardest things to do in the NBA is to beat a team on back-to-back nights when there's no travel involved. And these home and home series. And they whooped New Orleans' behind, being from down 20 to winning by basically 20, shutting down Zion Williamson, shutting down CJ McCollum. That just shows that they have an activity, they have an ethos that I think could be very, say, scary in the Western Conference because it's so deep. But I do think it's one of those things, Sherrod, when trade deadline comes around, that's a team that you need to be looking forward to because they have just enough good players that maybe they can go fetch a great one.
Basketball season will be here before you know it, and that is great news for Celtics Nation as the Boston Celtics look to defend their league best 18th NBA title. There's no better way to get in on the action than Game Time, which is where you can find the best deals on basketball and football, as well as concert tickets, NFL, and so much more. One of my favorite Game Time features is Game Time Picks, which makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste a ton of time searching through thousands of tickets. One of the hottest tickets out there will be the opening night for the Boston Celtics, which is when they'll get their championship rings prior to facing the much improved New York Knicks. you can bet emotions will be running high, and the same can be said for the cost of getting into the building. Not a problem, especially with the Game Time app where prices tend to be lower for tickets the closer you get to tip-off. And figuring out where you want to sit is a breeze. Having the map of the TD Garden laid out before you on the app, along with the different color price coding throughout, it makes it super easy to find the best seats for your budget and not have to scramble all over your app to do so. And you're covered by Game Time's lowest price guarantee, where Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Yeah. And the thing that all those guys that you mentioned, for the most part, are dogs. They get after it. They understand that they have no shot at winning unless they compete. And that's the scary part about a team like Golden State right now, because, their ability to compete night in and night out is going to mean that they're going to get a chance to win every single game. And more times than not, when you got a guy like Steph Curry in the building, and you got guys who are genuinely talented players. These aren't scrubs who play hard. These are decent NBA players who play with great effort. They're going to give themselves a chance to be successful. I would agree. They've been a big surprise this year. The team that I probably think has been they record-wise maybe not as great as some people think, but I watched them play, and they would make me a little bit nervous, is the Orlando Magic.
Ooh,
they got some interesting pieces there.
Yes,
I need to talk about, the way that Banchero has been he has been bully ball personified so far this year.
Yes.
He is taking kids to the shed, and those kids ain't coming back, V. He's leaving bones, and they are not coming back. And the thing is, he's young. He's starting. The thing that he's doing that I really am impressed with is his understanding the mental part of the game. He's always had talent. He's always been able to physically impose his will, but there seems to be a different level, a higher level of thought to his game now. That is a problem. Because if he's thinking the game better, combined with the physical gifts that he brings to the floor, Orlando could be that sleeper team that, man, you don't want to see them come April.
No, because they don't scare, right?
Right.
And I will give you two names because you're a Syracuse guy. So his game reminds me of a mix between two guys that might be near and dear to your heart. Okay? One is obviously Carmelo Anthony. Everybody can see the Carmelo, the way that he handles the ball, the way that he can sort of, the skill set for his size, right? But you know who else I see? I see Derek Coleman.
Ooh.
Big man who can handle. Big man who can beat you up. You know what I mean? He's got the Derek Coleman inside with the Carmelo outside, which means you don't have a guy that can really defend him, because if you send a big on him, he's going to blow by you. You send a small on him, he's going to, like you said, take him to the woodshed and punish. That's a problem you don't want to have in a 7-game playoff series where you got to scheme for it. Well, as soon as he touches, you got to double. That means you're in rotation. That means, boom, KCP is open for a 3. But one of these other guys that's young and hungry is going to be open. You don't want to play this young and hungry team that can take you out.
No, you don't. And the point that you made earlier, we saw a little bit of that last year. This team ain't scared at all. No one. And to be as young as they were last year, and they're just looking at every team like, what? Who are you? We supposed to be punked by y'all? Nah.
Right.
And now they got the experience of the success they had last year, and they're better talent-wise, and their best player has got appreciably better. Banchero, he's going to be in the All-NBA conversation this year.
Assuming he gets back and gets healthy and can play enough games, yes. Like that's a blessing for the league, for those opponents for the next 4 to 6 weeks that he's going to be out. But I wouldn't be surprised if a kid like that makes it back and wreaks havoc on everybody else for the last 60 or so games of the season.
Yeah, because he'll have enough time to do that. And I could be way off base on this, but I just get the feeling that he ain't going to be – he's not one of those guys that's going to take a long time to get right.
I'm with you.
It's 4 to 6 weeks, but I would not be surprised if we see him back in there in like 3.5, maybe 4. And Orlando, what they need to do between now and then is just kind of hold the fort. Stay, within striking distance. Don't, go on one of those 7, 8, 9 game losing streaks type things. Just stay in the game, and they got a shot. And obviously you got, the Celtics and Oklahoma City. But I wanted to just kind of pivot real quick, Vinny, because I know we're pushing up on time. What are a team or two that has been a major disappointment to you so far?
Ooh, a major disappointment. I think you have to start off with the Denver Nuggets, right?
Yeah.
Or do we start off with our buddy Doc Rivers and the Milwaukee Bucks, right?
Because they just got smashed by Memphis, and Memphis was coming. I think Memphis it was like a back-to-back for Memphis.
Yep.
And the stuff that Memphis was doing, stuff that just should never happen. I mean, you got Ja Morant literally on his ass on the court throwing lobs. How are you going to throw a lob alley-oop on
Harlem Globetrotter style, baby?
Exactly. And he's doing that in game. We ain't talking about like practicing before the game. We ain't talking about after. We're talking in game. This counts. That they got some problems, man. I think the one thing when I look at that team, Vinny, I think they got to make a move, and they got to get Portis in that starting lineup. He gives them great juice off the bench. They got to do something to shake things up, though.
I'll tell you this. I think the roster is just flawed because when you look at it, Sherrod, who's the athlete? Who's the guy that defenses just have to bend? Not in terms of just taking it and being a superstar, but just adding in a level of energy and adding a level of, hey, we're going to make things easier for Giannis and Damian Lillard. Giannis is balling, right? Giannis is doing what he does, but it's not in the context of winning.
The Bucks, they definitely have some issues to work through for sure. But one team that seems to be rolling along are the Boston Celtics. Vinny, obviously the defending NBA champions, that's the goal. From what you've seen, what do you think their prospects of repeating this champs looks like?
As strong as any team who hasn't repeated over the past, 7 or 8 years? And I mean that as a sincere compliment. The last team to repeat was 17-18 Warriors, and that team had Kevin Durant in his prime and maybe the greatest offensive weapons we've ever seen on one team. The Celtics look like they have broken the math of basketball. Like, they're going to take as many threes as they can. You have all these versatile wing defenders and guys who can also attack the basket. Like, remember, Kristaps Porzingis hasn't played a game yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and they're still destroying teams. And they are coming in, Sherrod, and you can never mistake the importance of this. They are coming into this season mad as hell. For whatever reason, they are mad. And then you got a coach who is ornery as he is unique, right? I'm actually starting to like Joe Mazzulla because that man a little different, right? He's a little bit on the different side, which means I don't think you have to worry about this team getting complacent. I don't think you have to worry about this team sort of having the championship hangover. They're going to have some bad games here or there. But, Sherrod, I still think they're going to be 60 wins, and you're going to see the Jason Tatums of the world in MVP conversation, which I don't think we could have expected over a year ago.
True. Very true. Very true. Well, look, appreciate your time as always. Vincent Goodwill of Yahoo Sports on the move as always, literally and figuratively. Vince, thank you for your time, brother. I appreciate you.
Hey, appreciate you, my man.